What is up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Whiskey Morgue podcast, where we talk about the whiskey we're drinking, the horror we're watching. I'm your host, Mike, and tonight, this is an exciting one. I am joined by my super pal, Zack from Terrorax Video, and an episode in what I'm going to call FRyeDay the 13th. Zack, how's it going, brother?
Thanks for having me. We're stoked to
So
check out some
this
stuff.
is this has been a long time coming because if you follow me online and maybe you follow Terrorax. If you don't, we'll plug the shit out of it later. But like me and Zach legit have been friends for many years now. I always make the joke that on my fridge there's a picture of my daughter and a picture of Zach and Sarah and that's it. That's the status in this friendship, all right? But what's fun is we've been wanting to do an episode for quite a while now, and we're just kind of figuring out what we want to talk about. And I don't know how we quite stumbled upon it. And maybe we were talking about like movies that meant something to us, but we decided to talk tonight about Jason Goes to Hell. So, courtesy of Zach, and if you're not watching the video format, I'm holding up my VHS copy, which is the previously viewed movie 999 from Hollywood Video. Was
Nice.
Hollywood Video a blockbuster rival in the US? Because
I think Hollywood Video. I'm not sure if they were around at the same time. I mean, Hollywood Video was in our area after Blockbuster was gone.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't. I had like Ambassador, I had Jumbo Video, but yeah, like Hollywood Video. Nonetheless, I got my copy, and I don't care if it's previously viewed. This is like me delving into VHS, and I'm gonna try not to go down that rabbit hole. But anyways, this movie means a lot to me because growing up, I always mention if you've heard other interviews or episodes, my grandmother got me on to the Friday the 13th novels quite early. I was an avid reader and figures I go become an English teacher later on in life. So, but like when the opportunity came up to watch a Jason movie, it makes sense because like Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday was in 1993. And at this point, I guess I'm about like 6 years old. And that sounds like a prime age to start getting into horror, at least for our generation. And of course I did. So that was my first watch. But here's the kicker, and this is why Zach is here tonight, is that I thought it was a great movie growing up, and this was my introduction to Jason. And then you start getting reacquainted into the horror scene and you start delving a little bit deeper. And I felt almost attacked that people did not like this movie.
Dude.
So, Zach, I just wanted to know kind of like what's your relationship with the movie first? Kind of like, do you remember the first time that you watched it, or what you had seen in the franchise first, and then how you came across this one?
Uh, Honestly, I'm not really sure which Friday the 13th I've seen first, but I have a very vivid memory of Jason Goes to Hell. Vienna Video was this local video store we used to go to. I'd go with my mom, and it was like super small. Like it was like smaller than my living room. It was like a fucking, a really small thing. But I remember seeing the Jason Goes to Hell box because the chrome mask with the demon thing. And like I was enamored by it as a kid. Like every time we would go to the video store, I'm holding this case, like that is so cool. And like to this day, when I see the cover art of Jason Goes to Hell, I can smell that video store. Like it's a
That's a
very, very distinct smell. And like it's like I don't know what that says about me. I might be having a stroke for like the past, most of my life, but yeah, I can smell that store.
it's I always love hearing people's like video store experiences because like especially in and around our age, it's that same experience that like you went there, you looked at covers, and it was like the art that usually popped out at you first. And on before we got on here, we're talking about like previous episodes. Like Eric kind of had similar stories about like the smell and the feel of like the video store, and his had a tanning salon, which is super cool, and the flexibility of a video store. Now, if you're watching the video version, Zach has the his own video store in his basement behind him, along with a few rows of theater seats, and my favorite part, the Ultimate Warrior cutout. So just for a little bit of background, like Zach, let us know about like Terrorac's video and kind of like how this came together. I know you've always been a collector and then finally built up this collection, but like because before we get into tonight's like topic and we talk about the movie, some people out there might go to Wikipedia, others might use AI, that's big right now. But like I will shoot a text off to Zach for for my information And that's my most trustworthy source. And that's why this man is going to help me kind of like rediscover my love for this film. And we're going to talk a bit about it tonight. But yeah, like Terrorac's video, this like what's the genesis of this finally coming together and saying, fuck it, I'm going to build a video store.
So, I mean, there's like the long end of the story is like I just never stopped collecting tapes. I always had a VCR and like VHS were like cheap for like ever, so it's just like I can just buy all these movies I want to watch for like nothing at like garage sales. So it was like it was like a guilt-free hobby for like a very long time until like the past like 5 years. It really like well, went to the moon. But buying a house, we look at this house and I go in the basement and it's just like wide open. And like the first thing I think is like I'm building a video store in here. And like that was it. Like the next day I was ordering shelves off like Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. Like I was like, that's it. I had like before I moved, I had like my living room was just packed with VHS shelves, just like you like it was like a nuisance for like a month. But yeah, it was just everybody like I mean I guess not everybody, but like the video store is like one of like the sacred memories of like you go into this place on like the weekend with your friends or like your parents and like you got to get like a movie and a game or like two movies if you're lucky and like you're basing it was like before the internet was like telling you everything you need to know, you're based on like a picture and like a paragraph on the back and like obviously nobody read the paragraph. It was just like that fucking picture thick. Let's go. And Jason Goes to Hell is pretty. I mean, we're talking 93. There's a chrome mask with like a demon coming out of it. Like that's Pogs worthy. Like,
Yeah.
like
Pogsworthy is the best way to describe it. And like, like again, if you're not familiar, you need to go check out the account because it's super cool. And I think like even though I've got some behind the scenes footage and being friends with Zach, the like seeing the video store and now you've been doing these kind of reels where you kind of grab something off the shelf, I think people can really see like how deep it goes and in the collection because like let's face it, like, VHS is hot right now. It is, and it's not to knock anybody else who's into it, but typically you see somebody else's like setup or like video store if they say they have one, and it's like one Billy bookshelf from IKEA. And cool, like you know what I mean. Like I don't really collect VHS. Like I have like a handful, and I almost wish that I kept everything that I had growing up because that was like you said the foundation of where I got started. But the other thing you need to know about Zach is that weekly I'm texting him and he's on a journey picking up something fun. So when, you mentioning this like picking up the shelves and right away looking, I'm like those theater seats. I remember getting the messages from you when you found them and I think it's just super super cool like the commitment and passion to just like bringing this together. And I think that alone speaks volumes about kind of like your knowledge, your passion for the genre and that's why we're here tonight.
like it is cool seeing like people create cool things, which is like, like I mean, I have a video store in my basement, but it's still nice to see other people have video stores. But it's like, you still get ideas, like, gas myself up. Like, I get, jazzed on their stuff. That makes me want to do more shit with my stuff. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, man, it's cool. I think we're all kind of like in our own way, and I think maybe it's like I always talk about like the nostalgia of our generation. We're all riding it. I think we're chasing it. It brings us joy, and hell yeah, and look at this. We get to like hang out tonight and drink some whiskey and talk about a movie that we both adore, even if the internet says it's not the best movie out there. So,
You know
a
what?
quick background. So, obviously, we're getting the spoilers. Like, I mean, if like here's where you hit pause if you haven't watched the film. Okay, like I really would encourage everyone coming into this to like you're listening to this right now. You're like, you know what? I need to revisit the film. Hit pause. Go watch the film because we're about to really get into this one. And I guess I'll just still give like the quick synopsis, and you can kind of fill in the gaps. But like here, like the beginning, it's you know, the FBI has set up Jason, and they kind of like bait him in with the classic trope of like the woman in the shower. They know they kind of set him up. They have this whole like shootout where they kill Jason, and from there he's delivered to a morgue. And things get interesting because then we start getting into like the body hopping, and we realize that he's like reborn by body hopping into each person. There's a lot of like real deep tongue action in how he transfers over a lot of times. It starts off with the heart. Okay, so that the person in the morgue like chews into this heart, and here we get this like Jason infection, possession, body hopping. Um, and yeah, from there, I mean, it's just really kind of like the chase. There's this whole connection to where they introduce like the blood relatives, and kind of like what he's trying to do, his objective, and how to stop him is family related as well. And we'll get into that. But what's more interesting is this starts really teasing some like future potential. And we know that it was supposed to be like originally Cunningham came forward with this like Jason versus Freddy, which we ended up getting, as we know. But that was shot down at the moment. So it's kind of chaotic. It's gross. I feel like there's elements in there that people love, like certain kill scenes. But it's just one that I feel like doesn't sit well with obviously like the general masses. And again, I love it and you love it.
Jason Goes to Hell. Like this is what we got. We got Jason Goes to Hell, and there's also the director's cut. And then if you thumb around, you can find like bits of like the work print, which is still like super loose. But like I don't know, like take it for like what we get, which is Friday the 13th trying something new. We were talking about this earlier. Like there's like the shift in horror that happens at like the end of the 80s or like in the early 90s. Like horror didn't know what they were doing yet, but they knew they were getting away from the slasher, like the camp slasher, and like
Yeah.
so like everybody was trying like like if you like that's like early 90s, like one of my favorite eras of horror because it was like so weird and like there's like so many like just like off the wall things happening and it was like super entertaining and it was like got like a little bizarre before it got super real.
Yeah.
You think about it, like the end of the 90s until what, December 20th, I think it was 96 when Scream came out. Like that's when
Mhm.
horror was like, oh, we fucking got it. Like this is what we're doing. But like before that, it was just a lot of people just like, well, let's see what sticks to the fucking wall. You know?
Yeah,
And
that's a great angle. Like the idea of them trying to really, yeah, they're throwing everything at the wall and trying to figure out what does 90s horror look like, or where does the genre move from here. And like even at the beginning of the film, they start off with like it seems like any other Friday the 13th movie. Like the woman's showering, she's nude, like it looks like it's a log cabin. And then we realize like they're baiting him, and the movie we'll get into it kind of takes a completely different turn. And then it's interesting to know that Cunningham kind of already had some vision of like mixing Freddy in there, and we'll get into that later, where like there's a lot of nods to all sorts of movies. And I feel like, yeah, this really is this like pivotal point in horror where they're really feeling out what do they do next, and maybe like pushing the envelope and seeing where we go. Because people like to praise like horror in the 90s, and it's great, but I think we kind of sometimes forget like, yeah, there was a few years in the beginning there that we're trying to figure all this shit out.
yeah, like every franchise did it. Like Hellraiser, like Hellraiser 1 through 3 was pretty textbook Hellraiser. Then like number 4 would like got like real big ambition. And it was just, like you bit off more you can chew. Like like it was an awesome story. Like I still love Hellraiser 4, but like like they had so like like that was one of those movies I went through like an insane everything just went fucking sideways. So like they
Yeah.
kind of slapped it together. But I mean, it's still fucking awesome. But like, like just like everybody's like, Pinhead goes like in outer space. Like, well, if you watch like the movie makes it make sense. And
Yeah.
then Halloween 6, was a lot different from all the other ones. Like that's where like, well, let's fucking really push this cult thing.
Yeah.
And like, all right. So like Michael Myers knocked up his niece. Like that's fucking weird. Like
Passively overlook that part. Yeah.
yeah. And then like, like Texas Chainsaw Next Generation. Like another I fucking love that one too. But like
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure like Leatherface doesn't kill anybody with a chainsaw in it. Like, like not a single chainsaw kill. But like that movie, like, it was like the whole like undertone, like the understory, like they were agents of fear, like working for the Illuminati. Like you're just like, whoa, what? Like give me more of that. Like what's going on? They're like, nah, we're not gonna talk about it. Like the fuck? Like that's sweet.
There,
And
there
then
was there seemed to be a lot of cult and Illuminati stuff. Like, yeah, even with like Halloween 6, it was like maybe there was like a bit of fascination there. And like even in this one here, it said that the script was written in 4 days. Now, obviously, there was like a lot of stuff beforehand, but and now that I think about it, because like it was just like a note that like I had dug up that the final script was written in 4 days, but obviously they didn't know where they wanted to take it. So I think it really rings true to what you're saying and kind of like where the fuck are we taking it? And now looking back at there, I think there definitely is like a charm to all these franchises really trying to figure out their footing and move forward with what they do next.
Yeah, I mean, like the real thing to look at is like every franchise. Like, I mean, like those are like the big names. Like even like Nightmare on Elm Street did it, but like all of them were like we're doing something. We are changing, And I think Wes Craven with New Nightmare was like the only one that was just like, yeah, yeah, I got this, but I'm gonna like push the envelope backwards. Like we're going back to like the first Freddy. I want this motherfucker to be like a prick again, you know?
Yeah.
And like, and like that's when he got super meta and like bam, like, I'm
You know,
sure
I never thought of it
team.
this way, but like like what you're saying right there is like I always praise that film, but he really did bridge like what we knew from the past, and maybe that's why it was like the perfect like turning point because he took like everything we're familiar with, and then yeah, like with the meta spin and moved on with it. Now I feel like so New Line picks up this film, so we know that like now we're getting a new take on Jason, and it's not quite Friday the 13th because they're not allowed to use the title as you mentioned. They forgot to buy a lot of things. So they forgot to buy the title. They forgot to like even get character rights like Tommy Jarvis. Um, but here's before we continue anymore because I need a drink. So we are doing Blackened first, and this is a Blackened by like by Willett or like the Masters of Whiskey series. Now, I never thought of this until now because this literally was just based on me sending Zach whiskey samples and being like, okay, eventually we'll do a podcast. And we didn't know what it would be, but here we are. And I love this idea because like they kind of angled this marketing as like so it's like the remastering or the Masters of Whiskey series where there's a collaboration. And I feel like if I'm gonna make an angle on the spot, this film here, Jason Goes to Hell, really is this mishmash of like old and new. And again, and so New Line picked it up and they're trying to figure out what they want to do with it. And this is like, the core of it is like, like Blackened's foundation, Rob and Willett teamed up to kind of figure out what they want to do here. So I think it's a good angle, like just like this whole like reimagining something and taking something that we know and changing it. So I think that's a great segue into this pour. So I'm gonna put some in my glass. I don't know if you already have some in
Fucking
there. Yeah, you're ready to go.
super stoked to try this.
But yeah, like so Zach, cheers, man. Thanks for doing this. We're gonna
Sending me the never coming back bottle.
yeah, the never coming back bottle.
God, I love Willett. Like that is so fucking good.
So the background quickly is that it's two Willet mash bills. So they did like let Blackened go in and use their barrels. But then it's finished in like Madeira casks. So I feel like you get, yeah, like all the Willet that we're used to, but then the Madeira finish kind of gives a lot of like fruity undertones and
that the Will It Rise like my favorite bottle I have, and like I'm a little wet behind the ears on the subject, but I've tried a few things and I really like that Will It Rye a lot, and this is fucking delicious. Oh man, I'd eat this for
well,
supper.
so we have our pours. I think we can continue kind of talking about the film here. So a lot of like the shit that this film gets is right off the bat the supernatural element, right? So the idea that Jason's body is transferred to the morgue.
Well, hold on,
Um,
hold on. The
yeah.
Youngstown, my
Okay,
home
let's.
morgue.
So
Red.
like, well, so yeah, this is where it's cool because Zach is from Youngstown, Ohio, and it was an interesting thing that I guess they're associating like Crystal Lake is what in New Jersey.
Yeah, it's a fucking drive.
So Jason dies, he gets shot up, and they're like, let's take him to the Youngstown morgue. And there's like kind of like a disconnect. So like do you think there's a reason? Do you have a reason why Youngstown would be plugged in this? I mean, being a Youngstown native and expert.
No, I don't. I did honestly. There's not a Youngstown morgue. Like
Oh shit, I didn't even know that. I figured there was
But
at
it was
least a
like
Youngstown
maybe
morgue.
like the Youngstown like city morgue or something, but like it's not real because I was like, you know, was Jason here? It's like, well, the here doesn't exist. But yeah, no, yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know. Not
Like,
that.
um, I was Googling Youngstown, and I mean I know a bit of it from you, and like again, like being a source of information, but there was like nicknames like Crimestown,
Oh yeah.
Crimestown, and I was like, I don't know, like, is it just because it has a bad reputation that they were like, we're gonna bring Jason to the baddest of places, and we're gonna bring him to Youngstown, Ohio, because yeah, it seemed kind of out of left field, but cool because even better for like the subject tonight and you being my expert and being from Youngstown.
Wait, it's funny that you bring that up because I'm pretty sure like that was like one of the original pitches of Jason Takes Manhattan was that he was supposed to like come in to like a gang war and the gangs had to like like band together to like take on Jason. That was like one of the original pitches for Jason Takes Manhattan.
They've been trying to like attach Jason to gang wars and violence. And he's like, yo, I'm just out at Crystal Lake trying to fucking stab people. And they're like, let's put him into real life crime. Like, we'll put him in Manhattan. We'll somehow make his body end up in Youngstown. What I need to know before we move on is like in terms of like Youngstown movie moments, I feel like you've mentioned other things. Is that like the main one, or has there been other Youngstown shout
Uh,
outs or mentions?
things don't come to Youngstown, that's for sure. Except like a blown up Jason Voorhees, which like he drove like I'm not sure what is it, like 6 hours like Jersey. It has to be from here. So like
Yeah.
they drove his corpse like 6 hours, and then when the coroner unzips him, he's still smoking. Like, like they just like sealed it in. Like
Fresh.
yeah,
How do you feel about like the supernatural element in this idea of like introducing body hopping in the film?
I mean like the element of supernatural is always there. I mean, the motherfucker comes back from the dead. Like,
Always.
part six, Jason's like full blown zombie, and then part seven, Jason like gets taken out by like another water zombie. Like I don't think the supernatural element's that far fetched from where we were already at. Like the body hopping, like it's I think it's fun, but I mean obviously it's not the common opinion.
I remember as a child watching this and being like, "Oh, so this is just this thing that gets passed along that like there is no Jason."
I didn't even
And
think about
obviously,
that your first movie. That changed everything for you.
yeah. Yeah, and
Like,
like so imagine going back to like so I'm not even kidding, like I feel like there's such a regular like chronological journey when I think of like Nightmare or Halloween, even though those even predate a lot of this. It's just that like that was my introduction, and I actually thought that like Jason was not one character, and like not only just the body hopping, but then I thought in other movies that like maybe yeah, it's just someone gets the mask and it possesses them, and that was Jason. And obviously, then you start getting a little bit older, you start diving into it, and you realize like that's why the trivia exists in Scream. Where like, oh, he wasn't even in the first one, and then we get like the sack in the second one, and it was a lot of like learning for me at a young age, kind of delving back into the franchise because I thought it was just like whoever gets this hockey mask or whoever is like possessed by the spirit of Jason is Jason.
what is your favorite kill in the franchise? On the spot.
Wow. The arrow, the coming through the bed. Yeah, that was just always one that I felt like was the most poetic, and I don't think it's necessarily like the best in terms of effects, but yeah, it was just like the one that I felt like really solidifies everything about like the tropes of the 80s slasher where it's just like dying mid-sex, and like and we've seen a lot of franchises revisit it, and like Terrifier just did it in the set in the shower scene in part three where it's like yeah, anytime you interrupt sex, I feel like it kind of makes it a little bit more like strange and unexpected, but yeah, that's mine.
If you got
I,
caught with
I
your
I could
pants.
turn it to you because naturally I want to hear what your favorite is.
My favorite kill on Friday the 13th is definitely not one people shine light on too much because it's from Jason Takes Manhattan. But when they're on the boat and the one girl's running from them and she's like runs into like the dance hall, right? And she's
Yes.
all spun around. and then like Jason just shows up and just like chokes her, right? But they have like that
Yeah.
long shot where he's just holding her up, and then like he just tosses her, and she like the thud she makes when he hits the ground, like there's no way like that, like whoever did the stunt for that's okay. Like that's just, it's so gnarly.
Damn, that's a really good one. Yeah, yeah. I like that one a
Dude,
lot.
rewatch that and just listen to the thud. Like you're just like, oh, every time.
So I think what it comes back down to is this idea of like not having a Jason um to follow in this journey. And I think that's what kind of fucks people up. And along with some other weird things, but I think like personally I think that's what like why people kind of like want to shit on the film.
Yeah, I don't know, like I don't think people necessarily need a reason to not like things. I think like it will take one person to say something, like like there's like kind of like an avalanche effect when somebody points out something like, well, this is done because of this, and it'll kind of like snowball, and like people like and then like you get to the point where the movie doesn't get a chance.
If you look at a lot of the films that we adore and we really love, get shit on in Rotten Tomatoes. So when I pull up the website, this is critics' reviews, by the way, okay? So I'm going to read a couple to you. So the first one is, while the decision to take the franchise in a new direction is admirable, the film's plot is so nonsensical and convoluted that the creative team's big swing ends up a big whiff. How do you feel about that one? I'm going to read a couple to you and we'll get your take on.
Well, I disagree because I like the movie.
Okay, here's another one from a critic. Okay, this is not even like the audience review. It's very, 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 very stupid.
Wow.
Critic review.
I think the
Profound.
only thing more stupid than the movie is that review. Like, I'm kidding. The movie's not stupid, but I mean, if you're a critic and like that is your take on being a critic, like, I mean, maybe you're not a critic because that is the most lackluster of doing stuff. Like, like, if you're gonna tell me this movie's bad, like, if somebody's like, tell me a movie's good, or somebody's gonna tell me like a movie's bad, like, like let's talk about it. Like, show me some receipts. Like I'm not gonna, if somebody doesn't like anything, I'm not mad at them, but like,
Yeah,
talk about it, but like just be like this is very, 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 very stupid. Like, all right, bro. Like,
I think it's not going to sway our opinions on films. Like I said, I adore this film. I love it, and even watching it, with a different perspective and coming back to it, I still feel like it's super progressive. It's what you need out of the franchise at the time, and like you said, even more telling of like what was happening in the 90s. So it's like I feel like there's a bit of like bonus points for the appreciation of what was going on at the time and trying to figure things out. But I still think as a film, it's really fucking good.
yeah, like, I mean, as a whole, like I don't know, like the still the element of Jason being like this menacing, unstoppable force, right? Like that, which is like a his ongoing theme is like Jason just can't be stopped. Like that is who he is. You ain't gonna fucking
Yeah.
stop the fucker unless you get lucky on a boat with a rock and some chains. Like and like the water on fire for dramatic effect because it did nothing. But you know what I mean? Like, and I think like this movie having him like doing his like the body jumping thing, like I still feel like it captured like, well, we're fucked because like we cannot stop him. You know what I mean? Like I don't know, like the I don't know if I'm jumping ahead, but like when he's like walking into the diner, like that's a pretty like it's like like you you can't stop him. You know what I mean? Like that's like it's just like that theme of Jason's still there, that he's an unstoppable force. So you know what I mean?
I think a lot of what makes this film really good is this like chase. So we mentioned that like Tommy Jarvis, like I think like they really wanted to push the whole like Tommy Jarvis arc, and they couldn't do it because they didn't have the rights to his name. So
Really sleeping in that board meeting. Like, all right,
yeah,
yeah, can we get Jason? Like, yeah, sure. Like, you don't want anything else? Like, nope, that's it. Like,
that
you sure? Because like, there's shit to be had. Like, nope, that's all. He comes
yeah,
from the
like
mask. Yeah, that's all I need.
anything with FRyeDay, nope, nope, we're good. Um, but yeah, like so like the character of like Stephen Freeman, I feel like they're really trying to take the whole like Tommy Jarvis story and kind of continue that, which I kind of like see like as a through line. Like they obviously can't do that, but I feel like, if they could use characters, and I think it was even mentioned that they originally wanted to have like him as a character in the film until obviously they realized that there was no access to the rights. Um, but yeah, I feel like they were trying to kind of like keep some kind of continuum going um, with this, and then I think naturally that kind of brings into the bloodline aspect. Now, at the time when we think about it, like the connection you made earlier is really like interesting because the whole like what they were trying to do in the 90s and franchises and bloodlines are important. Halloween did it from number two. They reinforced it even more in number six. So like what's your take on the whole um he's trying like Jason's trying to find his way back to a bloodline. The only way to kill him is to have someone in the bloodline. Like what's your take on this whole idea of putting family at the forefront?
I mean, it's I mean, obviously they were trying something new. I get to an extent. I mean, Jason was always like, mama's boy, no doubt. But like, yeah, like bringing in like, well, he has this sister, and then his sister has a daughter. It's like I don't know. It was okay. I mean, I thought the movie played out well. I mean, it did seem like out of nowhere. I mean, I don't think that's as big of a concern to me as like him canonically being a Deadite from this movie was like kind of like more like, oh, well, that's changing. Like that's some new information. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
If you're listening in, just because I'm sorry, Zack, to interrupt, but like there's a lot of references in this film. So like the Necronomicon is shown, and it's actually the same one. It's not even like a subtle reference to Evil Dead. It's the exact same book. So what Zach's mentioning here, like the idea of him being a Deadite, is
oh,
basically what they're implying. I think is really interesting because like you're pretty much kind of telling us that that's the direction we're taking it in. Okay, so before we continue anymore, if we're talking about our Friday the 13th, I am going with the next one, this Jack Daniels single barrel rye. So this one is 68.05%.
oh,
So,
sick. Get some
and
gasoline.
yeah, it's pretty much hazmat gasoline. Um, what's always cool about when I send it in like samples, like I picked up a couple of bottles of these. I was in Florida when I found it, but like if you look at it next to like the Willett, how dark it is insane. Um, and you would think like the Willett was double barreled. Um, you think it'd have a little bit more color, but this Jack Daniels rye, if you find it on the shelf, like here's where I have zero endorsements. Jack Daniels is too big for me, but like Jack Daniels rye is the best rye out there for its price. I will fucking hands down every time say it. Zach, I know I'm kind of setting the bar real high here. Don't spit it out when you taste it. But like I think I got this bottle for like 65 and for it to be like they say it's arguably like 7 to 8 year aged and fucking almost 70% single barrel. Super phenomenal. But I won't talk about it anymore. Zach, let's cheers. Tell me what you
Dude,
think of this one.
that's good. That's still not like I thought that'd be a lot hotter than it was, and it's not. Right? It has like
No.
there's it's a little like alcohol-y up front,
Yeah.
but it still has like that cool like rye pepper in the back. Mm. Yeah,
It's great.
it reminds me of the banana shaped candy that tastes like bananas.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
Like the artificial banana.
when I was like when we're playing shows, like when I was like in more like rowdy bands, our go to was wild turkey. We'd do like a ton of shots of wild turkey, and
Interesting.
and I just remember being like I remember like we played a specific show that comes to my mind playing in Pittsburgh. Like my buddy was like, "Here's a shot. It's wild turkey." It was like super hot. I was like, "Wow, I wasn't ready for that." And then we play one song, and this old dude, like an old dude, like silver old dude,
Yeah.
in his silver years, comes up with like a platter of shots. He's like, fuck yeah. And I'm like, fuck yeah, right? And like I take a shot and like, fuck, that's wild turkey again.
This like Bourbon Pursuit, we're talking about something about Wild Turkey and what was going on there, and we don't need to get into it, but like the whole idea was they were saying that like is Wild Turkey like a well-known brand um like across the US? And obviously it is because it's it's one of the main brands, but it's almost like I feel like when you're talking about like at a bar, like you're playing a gig, like I would think Jack Daniels would come first. Like hearing the story and kind of Wild Turkey being at the forefront kind of reinforces what I think they were saying, where it's like I feel like there's a few other names that come up before Wild Turkey. Although that being said, our favorite Joe Bob there, he'll always take it back to Wild Turkey. So if there's anything in terms of what's American whiskey and Americana, then maybe that just trumps it all. Is that is a Wild Turkey is like the go-to shot. The reason why this came up on the podcast is now Wild Turkey brought back an 8-year age statement. So now they're like, wow, like they're really like putting their foot forward in terms of like claiming the space because it's like a sub $50 bottle coming in at 8 years, 101 proof. And if it's as good as Wild 101 has been, or if not better, because now there's like a standardized age statement, then that's pretty fucking hard to beat, man. Like, um, so that was the whole premise of the discussion. But yeah, like Wild Turkey 101 is kind of like everyone's barometer.
Yeah. I just remember like being a kid and those things just cutting through me like a fucking hot knife through butter. But I mean, like I said, I mean, like before we got on, I mean, I was drinking the rare reeded rye, and
Nice.
I love it. Fucking, which is insane because if you told me 10 years ago that I really like wild turkey, I'd call you a liar.
We haven't talked about Creighton Duke. All right.
Duke's so
So
sick.
so I feel like, you know, this dude is like a horror icon who like never really got his due. And I think he's almost kind of been dismissed as like the weird side character. I feel like there was a lot more to him and it maybe got overlooked. Um, so I just want to kind of know like your take on the characters. A few other kind of questions I have set up for you with this, but like, yeah, just kind of like first of all, like your general take on Creighton Duke and in himself as a character in the film.
Creighton Duke is fucking tough as hell. The dude, like, what I was reading, like when he took the role, he was like adamant that the character had to dress up like a cowboy, which is fucking rad. Like the name Creighton Duke is so strong. Like, I
Yeah.
don't think I could think of like a more like tough name than Creighton Duke. It was like cut from the movie, but like Creighton's history with Jason was that Jason killed Creighton Duke's girlfriend while they were canoeing in Lake Crystal Lake. And that's why Creighton Duke has like this like hard on for getting Jason. Creighton Duke, like when it like comes down to like brass tacks, like homie's just like throws handcuffs on him, like, I got you now, and like does absolutely nothing, just gets hugged to death. like you know what I mean? Like I was like expecting like Creighton Duke to like just fuck him up and then like
Yeah, yeah.
until he died. I was like, oh, all right, all right.
That's why he kind of seems like a side character. Like obviously he's like on this manhunt for Jason, but like things feel a little bit more out of left field. But if you kind of know this backstory, I feel like it would have like reinforced his character a bit more. That's where if you want to be like a stickler, like there's obviously a few plot holes, and I feel like if we're gonna give some kind of constructive criticism, like I said, with like with Creighton Duke there, I feel like they could have done a better job at kind of setting up his motives.
The one thing that I thought was really interesting is Jason talks in this movie. Jason's niece gets to the Voorhees house, and the cop Ed gets there first, and like she's like, and like Creighton's like, well, you gotta kill him because he might be, Jason, because he can be anyone. And
Yeah,
then the real Jason, who's like the young cop, the dude's buddy, so the main guy's buddy's cop comes in,
yeah,
eight freeze, get the hell away from Red. Like that's Jason. Like Jason talked. Like, bro, you talked. Like
yeah.
Jason talked.
Yeah, it almost kind of slides under the radar just because he is kind of doing the body hopping thing. But yeah, that's like arguably is I guess is that the only and first time that Jason talks?
Yeah. I mean, other than, random. Like, I think if you're watching horror movies too serious, you're not gonna have fun. Like, I mean, like I watch horror movies because they're fun, and like I also like horror movies. Like, when you watch a good horror movie, it's the only like genre of movie that like kind of sticks with you a little bit. Like, you watch a good horror movie, you're like watching, and you're just like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? You're like a good horror movie. You're looking over your shoulder in like your own house.
Yeah.
You, like the most comfortable you can be. And like if a horror movie makes me uncomfortable on my couch, I'm like, damn, this shit's good.
So when we kind of like look at this film and we start to kind of like look at it as a whole, anything else that came to mind that like I should know, we should know about this film?
The good part of like what I liked about the movie was that they tried something different, and I think it worked. Like I don't think Jason turning into like doing this body jumping thing is like that far fetched from what we already had on our plate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like people like, yeah, like Jason, this demon that jumps into like body to body, like that's crazy. Like really, because like 2 movies ago he got killed by a guy that was also dead in the leg. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like okay, and like and even before this movie, he got melted by a bunch of acid in a sewer, but he's back with a fucking whole ass body. Like that's not far fetched, but like the jumping from body
Yeah,
to
it's
body, where to draw the line. You're more vulnerable liking something than you are not liking something. And I think
yeah.
there's a big part of that where it is safer to not like a movie and shit talk a movie. Whereas if you're trying to defend a movie, you're kind of like, you have more on the line. You're like, like you're vulnerable because like, well, I like this, so like now you have a weakness on the line or whatever. But I think ultimately, like, I think it's easier for somebody to just like shit talk a movie and not have a good time. Whereas, like, and like, about like, and beyond that, I mean, also like we're in like that weird stint of society where like people like kind of don't like having fun. But like when somebody brings up a movie, you're like, yeah, I didn't really like that, and they're like, when was the last time you seen it? And you're like, fuck, like 13 years ago, and they're like,
Yeah.
rewatch it. You're like, ooh, you know what I mean? Like you're just like when somebody hits you with that, like when was the last time you watched it? You're like, it's been a while. They're like rewatch it. You're just like, oh fuck, I missed something. I love this.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why like, I being on other podcasts and people asking me like favorite movies and stuff like I feel like People Under the Stairs has become one of my like it makes it on the list. I never thought it would. Like to be honest, it was a movie I used to watch at my grandparents' house, and I don't know why my grandparents had this fucking movie, but like the short of it is that like I loved it then for the idea of like the concept of people being locked in the house and all this stuff. And then again, like revisiting it like years and years later, a bunch of times where I'm like, oh fuck, like this is like way more deeper than just the idea of like kids being locked in the house and trying to steal. Like we're talking about gentrification, we're talking about all these things. So like I feel like sometimes it just takes going back to a movie. I feel like Jason Goes to Hell, if I'm gonna bring this full circle, is like people haven't revisited it enough. Generally, where does this land in terms of like your franchise rankings?
I mean, we're talking the Friday the 13th, like in
Like
franchise.
kind of like yeah, just like in its entirety in terms of like everyone's attempt at telling
Uh,
this story.
Lower middle, but it's not because it's bad. It's because I really like Friday the 13th movies.
Yeah,
The idea that he cannot be stopped, which is
yeah,
like, you don't realize that until part 6, and then like all the way through, you're like, yeah, this like it doesn't matter what you do, he's not gonna stop. But like the but then the front half of the franchise, when like you're unsure of what he can do, like you're scared because you're unsure. You know what I mean? So it's like there's like those splits. So like I don't know, like I like the entire franchise. So I'd put Jason Goes to Hell like lower, like mid tier, but like not because it's not good. It's just because so many of them are really good.
I appreciate you being the person I get to turn to in terms of like bringing my thoughts, opinions, and revisiting old films. In terms of like your own stuff, where can people find you? What are you up to?
Well, If you guys fancy some VHS, you can come across via crud Terrorx video. Also, if you like music, I'm in a band called Neighbor Dan.
Yes. Remember to go to Terrax Videos, Terrax Videos on Instagram. And as always, stay spooky.
Boom.
Cheers.